The novel opens in rural England, in the home of the Bennet family, who have 5 daughters in a precarious financial situation. Mr. Bennet is an intelligent but detached man, while his wife, Mrs. Bennet, is keenly focused on securing wealthy husbands for her daughters, as the family estate is entailed to a male relative, Mr. Collins. Mrs. Bennet's desperation grows from the realization that, upon Mr. Bennet's death, her daughters may be left with no home or fortune. The arrival of Mr. Charles Bingley, a wealthy and charming young bachelor, at the neighboring Netherfield estate, brings great excitement to the neighborhood. Bingley is immediately attracted to Jane, the eldest and gentlest of the Bennet sisters. However, his reserved friend Mr. Fitzwilliam Darcy makes a poor impression, especially when he seems disinterested in socializing and is overheard dismissing Elizabeth, the second eldest Bennet, as tolerable, but not handsome enough to tempt me. Elizabeth, known for her wit and independence, quickly forms a dislike for Darcy. Despite Elizabeth's misgivings, Darcy finds himself increasingly drawn to her, intrigued by her intellect and spirit. Meanwhile, Mr. Collins, the Bennets' pompous and self-important cousin, arrives to propose marriage to one of the Bennet sisters. He initially fixes on Jane, but after learning of Bingley's interest in her, he shifts his attention to Elizabeth. When Elizabeth refuses his proposal, her mother is furious, while Mr. Collins quickly proposes to Elizabeth's friend Charlotte Lucas, who accepts, seeing it as a practical solution to her uncertain future. During this time, Elizabeth meets Mr. George Wickham, a charming militia officer who shares with her a negative story about Darcy. He claims that Darcy unjustly deprived him of a living he was promised, which strengthens Elizabeth's dislike for Darcy. Meanwhile, Bingley and Jane's budding relationship abruptly ends when Bingley leaves for London. Elizabeth learns that Darcy may have played a role in encouraging Bingley to separate from Jane, which deepens her resentment. Soon after, Elizabeth travels to visit Charlotte and Mr. Collins at their new home near Rosings Park, the estate of Lady Catherine de Bourgh, Darcy's wealthy and domineering aunt. While there, Darcy visits his aunt and, despite Elizabeth's clear dislike of him, unexpectedly proposes to her. He confesses his love, but his proposal is laced with remarks about her family's lower status, which insults Elizabeth further. She angrily rejects him, pointing out his interference with Bingley and his treatment of Wickham. Darcy is taken aback, but later writes Elizabeth a letter to explain his actions. He admits to discouraging Bingley from Jane, believing Jane showed little affection in return, and defends himself against Wickham's claims, revealing that Wickham had tried to elope with Darcy's young sister, Georgiana, for her fortune. This revelation forces Elizabeth to reconsider her feelings toward Darcy, realizing she may have misjudged him. Elizabeth's attitude toward Darcy softens over time, especially after she visits his grand estate, Pemberley, during a family trip. There, she encounters Darcy unexpectedly and is surprised by his kindness and warmth. Darcy's demeanor has changed as he tries to make a good impression on Elizabeth's family and friends. The two begin to share a mutual understanding and attraction, although neither openly acknowledges it. However, disaster strikes when Elizabeth learns that her youngest sister, Lydia, has run away with Wickham. This scandal threatens the entire family's reputation, and Elizabeth despairs, believing it will ruin any chance of a future with Darcy. Unknown to her, Darcy tracks down Wickham and Lydia, paying off Wickham's debts and arranging their marriage to save the Bennet family from disgrace. Elizabeth learns of Darcy's actions through Lydia, and her gratitude and admiration for him deepen. Finally, Bingley returns to the neighborhood, and he and Jane soon resume their romance. Darcy also returns and, after overcoming various misunderstandings, proposes to Elizabeth a second time. This time, she joyfully accepts, having overcome her earlier prejudices and realized Darcy's genuine character and integrity. Both characters have undergone growth. Elizabeth learns to see beyond first impressions, and Darcy learns to temper his pride. The novel concludes with Elizabeth and Darcy, along with Jane and Bingley, happily married. Themes of social class, love, and personal transformation underscore Austen's satirical examination of 19th-century English society, where both pride and prejudice are hurdles to understanding and connection.